on an ordinary and monotonous afternoon in literature class. The anticipation of Friday's ninth period hinted at the impending winter break, elevating everyone's restlessness. Unlike my friends facing tests in other classes, our newly college graduate teacher decided to go soft on us. She planned to inject some excitement by engaging us in games on Kahoot. Amidst a name the movie quiz, the tranquility shattered as the Mr. Ned, the dean's frantic voice echoed through the loudspeaker, signaling an abrupt lockdown. Chills ran down my spine, contrasting the usually composed atmosphere. Our teacher, usually the epitome of calm, mirrored the panic as she swiftly turned off the lights and directed us to the room's rear corner. A few minutes of unsettling silence passed, followed by the abrupt cessation of the room's customary buzzing, a clear indication that the school had deliberately cut power. We all looked at each other, sharing confused looks among ourselves and trying to convey the gravity of the situation. Soon, piercing screams echoed down the hallway as a disturbed individual approached our classroom, banging on lockers and emitting terrifying threats. Panic set in, with even a couple of classmates breaking into tears. The unseen threat intensified his assault, moving from lockers to our classroom door, demanding entry. The man was screaming like a mentally insane person, banging everywhere and screaming whatever he was screaming. The ordeal felt like an eternity as the man's screams faded down the hallways, leaving an atmosphere of lingering fear. Minutes later, the dean's voice returned, offering an explanation for the chaos. A mentally unstable person had invaded the school, assaulting the front desk attendant, triggering a chaotic evacuation. With no security cameras or proper measures in place, the staff's efforts to locate the intruder were futile. Despite the unsettling events, the dean instructed a cautious resumption of classes, emphasizing locked doors and restricted student movement. The most disturbing part, however, was that a night shift janitor on the night of the lockdown discovered the intruder sleeping in a storage closet near the school's rear. Rumors suggested he possessed some kind of firearm that I don't recall, and the janitor's ill-timed actions inadvertently allowed the intruder to escape before police intervention. To this day, my entire class remains unaware of the intruder's fate, fostering hope that he's receiving the necessary assistance. Lunch period started like any other day at our high school. Laughter, chatter, and the clatter of trays. But the normalcy shattered when loud booms echoed through the cafeteria. Panic swept through the room, and we instinctively hit the floor. The deafening noise reverberated, and the fear in the air was palpable. Soon, a hushed rumor circulated. A mentally disabled man had threatened suicide and barricaded himself in one of the classrooms. Chairs scraped against the floor as makeshift barriers, trapping him within. The atmosphere grew tense, the once familiar halls now fraught with an unsettling uncertainty. The realization hit harder than the booming echoes. The source of those loud sounds wasn't some random accident. It was a firearm. The gravity of the situation settled in, leaving us paralyzed with fear. The school became a battleground, the lunchroom now a temporary refuge from an imminent threat. As news of the armed man spread, a hushed silence descended upon the school. The usual hum of activity was replaced by the weight of an impending crisis. The man, desperate and on the edge, was not only a danger to himself, but a potential threat to anyone who dared approach him, even the police. Locked in the multipurpose room, students huddled together, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. The once vibrant space now felt claustrophobic, each passing minute intensifying our collective dread. Outside, the wail of sirens signaled the arrival of law enforcement, the beacon of hope in our confined reality. Time crawled, an agonizing weight, as we clung to any scrap of information filtering through the grapevine. The police were negotiating, attempting to defuse the situation without bloodshed. We remained in the dark, our imaginations running wild with the possibilities of what could be happening just beyond the closed doors. The tension reached its peak when we heard the muffled sound of authoritative voices. The police were on the move, their steps deliberate and purposeful. A bead of sweat trickled down my forehead as we strained to catch any hint of progress. Fear whispered through the room, each heartbeat echoing a silent prayer for a peaceful resolution. Then, the moment we had been dreading, a distant shout, a sharp command, and the heart-stopping pop of a gunshot. Panic seized us, our collective breath caught in our throats. The once distant threat suddenly felt uncomfortably close. What if the situation had escalated? What if violence had erupted just beyond the walls that shielded us? But then, a wave of relief washed over as the murmur of voices grew louder. The police had succeeded. They had managed to disarm and subdue the man without further harm. Slowly, cautiously, the doors of our temporary refuge swung open. The harsh fluorescent light of the hallway spilled in, temporarily blinding us. As we emerged, we were met with the sight of police officers securing the area. Their stern expressions a testament to the gravity of the situation. The mentally disabled man, now in custody, was escorted away. The chairs barricading the classroom were scattered, a stark reminder of the turmoil that had unfolded within those walls. The threat had been neutralized, but the scars lingered, the residual fear, the unsettling awareness that our sanctuary of learning could transform into a battleground in an instant. The school lockdown had ended, but the echoes of that harrowing experience reverberated through the halls, a somber reminder of the fragility of our sense of security. The school day was proceeding as usual when I, an intern tasked with preparing for the upcoming exams, descended into the dimly lit basement. My mission was simple: retrieve supplies for the exams next week. The basement was a combination of dusty shelves, forgotten paperwork, unused school supplies, and random lost and found items. The air was thick with the scent of aging paper and mildew, and the fluorescent lights flickered intermittently, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Ignoring the unsettling atmosphere, I focused on my task. Stacks of papers, grading supplies, and an assortment of stationery awaited me, including extra pencils and erasers for forgetful students. As the first gathered the materials, the monotony of the task was abruptly shattered by the deafening echo of a gunshot. My heart leaped into my throat, and a cold sweat broke across my forehead. Panic surged through my veins as I strained to comprehend the sudden and ominous sound that reverberated through the once quiet school. I raced to the basement door, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the handle. The hallway beyond was plunged into chaos. My ears rang with the shrill cries of terrified students and the unmistakable sound of more gunshots. A thick cloud of fear hung in the air, suffocating any semblance of normalcy. Through the narrow crack in the door, I strained to make sense of the unfolding nightmare. It was difficult to discern details, but the urgency in the air was palpable. The sharp retorts of gunfire were punctuated by the desperate pleas of those in harm's way. Someone screamed that a colleague had been shot, their voice a haunting echo in the now tainted halls. Paralyzed by fear, I clung to the relative safety of the basement. The suffocating darkness outside offered no solace, and the chilling reality that danger lurked just beyond the threshold sent shivers down my spine. Each bang of a gunshot felt like an ominous drumbeat, counting down the seconds until the unknown assailant claimed another victim. Time lost all meaning as I cowered in the basement, praying for the nightmare to end. Eventually, the sounds of chaos began to subside. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing moment. The arrival of law enforcement signaled a glimmer of hope, a promise that the nightmare might be coming to an end. As the police moved swiftly to secure the school, the apprehension of the suspect was met with a collective sigh of relief. The victims, my fellow co-workers, were spared the ultimate tragedy. I couldn't help but wonder, had I not been in the basement, could I have been among the wounded? The chilling thought lingered, a reminder of the thin line between safety and peril. In the aftermath, the school was shrouded in an uneasy silence. The trauma of the event left its mark, casting a shadow over the once secure halls of learning. Security guards patrolled the corridors, and stringent checks were implemented at multiple entrances. The school, once a haven of education, now bore the scars of an inexplicable act of violence. What haunted me most was the mystery that lingered. The gunman remained nameless, and his motives elusive. The lack of answers only deepened the disquiet, leaving the unsettling feeling that danger could strike again, unforeseen and inscrutable. The school had survived, but the scars of that harrowing day etched themselves into the collective memory of everyone who walked its halls,